So thank you so much for coming on the show. I know how busy you are, and I just appreciate and love you so much.
Well, it's my pleasure. And you know, I love, love, love your audience with all my heart. So it's good to be with a friend and good to be talking to your crew.
Okay, well, listen, I turned 50, as you know, a couple months ago, and everybody was like, oh, you turned 50. Are you okay? And I started getting, you know, how like everybody was saying on social media, like, happy birthday. And so I started getting all these ads for things. Like, my whole algorithm changed once I went into 50 mode. And I just feel like, honestly, I have never felt more like me. And
Why do we keep this a secret from women?
I don't know. Can you talk to me about what your 50s have been like, and like what do you feel like, why do you think society just makes this, I just feel like once you turn 50, ageism is so in your brain.
So great. Well, it's all the
And
patriarchy. It's not women, it's women feeding into the patriarchy. Because if we really were in tune with our own bodies and our own world, we would realize that we have just been granted freedom. Like, and I think that's what scares everyone. Everyone is so scared of a woman turning 40, or I mean, 50 or 60. I turned 60 this year. And I think people come across like to come down on you to make sure you're still going to obey all the rules because they know our oxytocin dried up, our estrogen dried up. Like, hormonally, we are staged to not be able to be easily manipulated. Our boundaries come easier. Our burdens and responsibilities are lessening. And I think people are so scared. Like, we're freeing up this woman's time. She has a bunch of money and she doesn't have the hormones that kept her trapped, begging us for babies. And she doesn't, like, I think the world is scared of women turning 50 and 60. And I think we women, I sound like a radical, have to get the word out. It is a blast. Like, I have never felt more free. And my goal is to become a feral elder. That's my goal.
oh my gosh, I love that so much. Yes, can we please? You know, it's funny because today, for some reason, I was driving home from Omaha to my house, and I saw like this beautiful the sunrise. Or I was driving from my house to Omaha and I saw the beautiful sunrise. And I always think of my grandma whenever I see a sunrise. And my grandma was just this, she was a force and she had no filter. And like now I look at her and I'm like, I cannot wait to be a grandma. Like, I cannot wait to have no filter like her. I mean, she would just speak truth. She could look at you and figure out what was wrong with you in 10 seconds. Like, I will never forget one time she came to our house to watch our kids, and Lance and I were fighting, and it was real tense in our house. And we had just gotten into this huge argument. And she walked in and she's like, "Oh, you two are you two must be not having a good morning or something." And I was like, "Oh no, you know, she's picking up." And she's like, "Do you know what you need?" And I was like, "What is she going to say?" And she said, "You both need to stop what you're doing and go have sex."
I love it.
Gosh, grandma, like she just, but you know what? That's exactly what we did need in the moment. Like, we hadn't been connecting. We hadn't, you know, we had all these little kids and like we hadn't been spending time together. We were fighting about stupid stuff that
Best
doesn't matter.
prescription
And
ever.
she was like, "You know what you two need to do? You just need to stop what you're doing and go have sex."
Go have sex. Best prescription ever. Well, I think like there's so many ways we have fed into, like, no one talked to me about menopause. No one talked to me about it's okay to have, my time. I mean, and so there's this, we're whispering about it more in the hallways, and Oprah's bringing it kind of to the forefront as far as, our bodies but even then it's all staged as a negative. Like,
Mhm.
you know, your bone density is going to go down. Like, that's a fact. I'm like, unless I do what I need to do and have the information I need to have, and like not lose muscle mass and keep,
Yeah.
impact activities, like what is going on? And so I've gotten really, sensitive to, I think the whole world is scared of women really stepping into the power. We've played small up until our 50s, and a lot of things that kept us small and in line and trying to please everybody and trying to hold the world up, naturally kind of falls away. And it's like, unless we are controlled or made to feel like we're going to be unhealthy or we're going to be like, um, emotionally, neglected, that, the whole thing is we got to keep ourselves up or someone will leave us. And I'm like, please leave. I would love less people in my house. Like you'll never get a date again unless you keep yourself up. Don't let your hair go gray. Like you look older. It'll be hard to date with gray hair. I'm like, let the gray come on. And I remember someone describing to me, and I travel a lot, and I'm obviously upgraded a lot to first class. And I would get on a flight, and I was sitting next to this woman, and she goes, "Have you noticed yet?" We were talking about gray hair. She goes, "How long has your hair been gray?" I says, "Yeah, I've let it go gray for like 6 years. I love it." And she goes, "Oh," she goes, "Have you noticed yet?" And I said, "Notice what?" She goes, "That you're invisible." And I said,
Mm,
I hadn't noticed that. But it is so cool to have an invisibility cloak. When I get on a
mm,
plane, I no longer have a single guy checking me out. I have no one trying to like hit on me, no one buying me a drink, no one asking a dumb question like feigning interest in what I'm reading. And I go, I have noticed it. It is the best thing ever. I just travel through the world invisibly and I love it. I've wanted
yes.
anonymity for my whole life.
Yes, you have, because you have none when you travel.
Yeah.
People are
And
like, "Oh
so
my gosh." Yes.
And so I bring
Okay.
that up only because I think and you're part of this podcast, is we need to flip the script
Yes.
on what you've been told is not the truth. Talk to the people who have lived experience in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that
Yes.
are beautiful, loving, kind, empowered women who have done great by the world. And now they're taking this scrumptious time to, what I'm doing is getting to know myself again. Who am I and what do I want now? Because I'm retiring and everyone's like, well, what are you going to do next? And I'm like, why is that the question? Like, I'm going to just
Like
follow
you
my
have to do
soul,
something next to be a relevant human being.
be on a sabbatical. But it's like a lot of folks are, seeing it as like it's over. And what most people don't realize is that our human development doesn't stop. It doesn't go adolescence, adult, and then adult human development cycle is 60 years. It's like we have so many development cycles each decade up into the end of our life. There's so much reconciliation and closure we need to do as we die. That's a development stage. So we have a lot more work to do, but it's not the same type of work we've done. Like, I thought it was a self-help project because everybody's like, what are you working on next? What are your new goals? Like, what are you going to do in the new year? And I've realized I'm not a self-help project. I've had everything I needed all along. So my work right now is remembering. And people are like, you've
Mm.
just lived the dream. And I said, I have. And I'm so grateful. I'm just not sure it was my dream.
Mm.
Like I
Wow.
lived what the good A student does, and I lived what the person who's the first in their family to ever to go to college does, and I lived what hospitals needed me to be, and I lived like, and did I have fun? And I made the best of it. But people are like, I
Wow.
can't believe you're leaving your business behind, and I'm like, I'm not sure it was ever mine. I served the world well, but in
Mm.
my 60s now, I want to make sure that I'm living my dream. And
Yes.
that requires me remembering. Like, I'm going back. Like, what do I love when I was 10? I loved hiking and horseback riding and swimming, and I loved the ocean, and I loved arts and crafts, and I loved cooking. And I really thought I would be like a stay at home mom who canned tomatoes on a farm and had the most beautiful gardens in the world. And then life happens and we're all over functioners. So people hand us the script and we play it perfectly. But in your
Yes.
50s and 60s, you get to start asking, like, yeah, I've lived the dream, but have I lived my dream?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Whew, I'm like getting like emotional, honestly, an emotional response to that. I'm really trying hard right now not to shed some tears because it's like you speak so directly to my heart sometimes that it's like you're so wise and you have such a way with words and putting words together to get people in, like just stop people. And I know this is your therapist background. I know that you are a therapist at heart and that you have been helping people your whole life. And that's why you are so good at words and reflecting back words. But I love this remembering because what I keep coming up with is, you know, I loved when I was a kid, we lived on a lake and it was a 2-mile bike path around the lake. And sometimes when things weren't going great at home or when there was drama or just stress or whatever, I would just get on my bike and I would ride my bike around this lake for like just freedom, little banana seat, just ride. And fast forward, I go to Hilton Head 15 years ago, first time, and there's 70 miles of bike trails, and they're flat. And I get on this bike, and I'm like, I'm going to go on a bike ride by myself. Now that was huge for me because I had 4 kids with me and a husband. I never went by myself anywhere on vacation, but I was like, Lance, I just need to go on a bike ride by myself. And he was like, okay, I'll watch the kids go on a bike ride. And I get on this bike. I'm not lying. I had such a emotional response to getting on this bike that I
Sure.
cried for like a solid hour. I don't even know why I was crying, but it was like therapy. So every year we would like go back to Hilton Head. I would get on this bike and then I started doing it every day. I still do it when I go to Hilton Head. Every time I go to Hilton Head. And it's because I'm back to that like little girl who just was like dreaming of all this stuff and who was out in nature and the wind was in my face and I'm on a bike. And I have had so many epiphanies on that bike in Hilton Head. That's when I make the biggest life changes and decisions for myself. And I give myself permission is on a bike. And it's like the closest thing to joy that I felt as a child.
This
So
is amazing.
can you talk to us about, am I remembering? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
doing there?
it's remembering. And when I work with women and they're like, I might go for a walk or take a week off or go do what you love, they keep themselves from doing what they love because it's so painful to remember and then return to a life that's not our dream. And so I think in our 40s, we have all these excuses if you chose to have kids or if you're married or whatever lifestyle you're living, especially those of us at all to do with healthcare, is we participate in the busyness because in the beginning, remembering is very painful,
Mm.
and it's a day of reckoning. And I'm not a really religious person, but I'm very spiritual. And when I was a little girl, and things weren't great at my house, I went to every Bible school that my town offered. I was known for this. So it
I
was a
love
ton of
this
Asian
about you.
people. So they always had Bible school different weeks. And so I'd go to like the Baptist Bible school, the Lutheran Bible school, the Methodist Bible school. Like I'd go to Awanas on Thursday night and CCD on Wednesday night. Like
You did not discriminate against VBS.
nothing because I loved, usually there were older women there that were speaking
Mm.
wisdom and giving you
Mm.
snacks, and they made beautiful crafts, and we sang songs, and we talked story. And so when I
Mm.
look back, like my remembering, so for me, when I would go to church with all my little boys, I was just not even centered in church. We went to a Catholic church because I was always tending to the kids, or I would volunteer to serve the breakfast, or I would volunteer to like be in the nursery and watch all the kids because when I'm in a spiritual setting, the tears just come in the beginning and the gates open. And so what I've realized here is I'm not really Catholic or religious, but living in Mexico, there's so much beautiful ritual. And you go in, and the Lady of Guadalupe is there, and there's quiet, and there's stunning color and tradition, and so like it's my
And
crying time.
story. There's
I just
story.
Yeah, and story. And I just go there, and it's like your bike or my hiking's that way, like the remembering. And I think so many women say they don't have time to do the things their soul needs. Um,
Mhm.
but it's, gosh, if I remember, then the returning to this current life is even more painful. And so I think we need to help women in the in-betweens. I think we need to help women to know how to put on the invisibility cloak and go ride the bike. And I think we need to help people return without it being all consuming or dead to their soul. Like, I think our
Mm.
biggest problem as women's are the in-between times. It's the
Yes.
20 minutes before we fall asleep. It's the 20 minutes we're up by ourselves in the morning. It's the bike ride. And it's not always going to be all tears, but it may start there. And it doesn't mean you have to give up your old life or you have made any big mistake or that it
Right.
was all for naught. I've had to come to love every woman I ever was. All the versions of me that got me here, I've had to love and celebrate for the safety they gave me, and they kept me safe by performing or, people pleasing. And now I built my own safe place where
Mhm.
those people don't have those parts of me don't have to overfunction.
Okay, this was so good, Sai. It reminds me of something you taught me several years ago that really has stuck with me, and I think about it every single day when I find myself in those in between times. You told me once that being busy is the new self harm,
Yeah, it is.
and you said it in such a way where it like struck me, and I was like, wow, because when I find myself in those in between times, I don't want to go there. I just want to do another task. I want to fold laundry or empty the dishwasher or send an email or get on my phone, because that behavior is so much less painful than stopping and having to think about, maybe I wasn't a really great human being yesterday to my husband or to a work colleague that I need to actually apologize for my behavior. Or maybe I am I've committed to something I know I need to say no to, and I don't want to, I'm people pleasing. And so like just today, I was speaking to a woman who is like, I can't let myself not be busy because I don't know how to process feelings, because I've never been able to process feelings. And it's so scary. So, what do you say to the woman that is saying this? Like, I literally can't spend 10 minutes alone because it's so terrifying.
Oh, wow. A couple of things. First of all, a lot of times we got to be adult women and we need to learn to self regulate. But no human being learns to self regulate on their own. The way children learn to self regulate is we co regulate them. So, like when a 3 year old is having some big feelings, we hold them and we breathe deep. And so, if somebody says to me, I can't be alone, I would say, oh my gosh, you're not taking really the right approach here. You can't learn to self regulate, but I'll co regulate with you. Can I hold you?
Mm.
Can I sit with you? And that's the fallacy, I think, especially maybe men too. I'm not one, so I don't know. Women have fallen into, it's like, I have to go do all this alone. I have to be there for
Yeah.
everybody else, and I got to go fix myself alone. And
Mm.
that's just the fallacy. So it's like if somebody said, I don't know how to do this, I'm like, well, then let's go together and I'll do the heavy lifting. My sweet, sweet friend Kathy, who passed away, there was a time in my life, and we used to cuddle in bed, and it was our thing. And she had this big scrumptious bed, and I would go to her, and my life was a mess, and it was falling apart. And I laid down next to her, and she said, just come here. And what is wrong? I said, I'm so tired. I just don't even, taking a breath hurts. Like, I'm so tired. I don't even think I can keep breathing. And she goes, no problem. Just lay your head on my chest. I'll breathe for us. And it's, I tear up. It's that type of stuff that I think as we get older as women, we need to have our anger about how ripped off we've been, because part of keeping us from remembering is keeping us apart. Like there's
Wow.
one of us on
Wow.
every shift. They never put all 10 women on the surgical team. Like they never put, when we boarded cases, we never said, I mean, we would even say, like, well, there's like 5 females, and we're like, well, let's spread that out. Not because we don't like females, but because we need them to emotionally regulate the other 10 teams.
Yes, yes. We need you to be the emotional caregivers for the team of men, one at a time, so that
One
you
at a
can be,
time. And
yes,
so we
yes.
would spread them out. And so I think we start to notice about how the ways we're trying to do stuff is still bought into this bill of goods that we've been sold. And there's some skill sets we need to learn right now as women. One of them is, I call it puppy training. Come, sit, stay. You don't just
Mm,
demand performance from your puppy. Come, sit, stay. You
mm.
have them come and then reward them. And then you teach them to sit and reward them. And then you teach them to stay, and you move away in smaller increments. And I think we need to teach each other with our feelings to come, sit, stay.
Oh, I love that.
And that's it's like puppy training.
Yes.
Another thing I think we need to learn is what I call compassionate returning. Um, I was learning to meditate, and when I would lose my mantra, I was very type A. My teacher would watch me, and I'd have my eyes closed, but I'd scrunch up my face and basically say, "Oh fuck," and like I'd be like, "Oh damn it," and I'd come back to the mantra, and he would just startle because this is meditation. And I kid you not, like he looked at me like I had Tourette's or something. He was freaking out. And he asked me after class to stay. And I'm like, yeah, I need to know the secret. Like, how do I not forget the mantra? He goes, you will always forget the mantra. You will always veer from the mantra. That's not the point. The point that you have to learn, Sai, is compassionate returning. Whenever you find yourself away
Oh,
from the mantra, all you do is turn and head back towards the mantra, head back towards compassionate returning.
Yeah.
And I think we women, and again, I don't know about men, I don't want to isolate anybody anymore based on gender roles, but I know for myself as a woman, I never learned compassionate returning. I had to learn shameless amends to be
Mm.
able to come back and say, I didn't lead you well yesterday. Can I have a do over? I reflected and I want a do over. Can we begin again? And, we just try and like make up for it. And when we teach people to do amends, you say, I'm sorry, and you show insight. I can see, at least from my perspective, where this really affected you. And we don't say that wasn't my intent. We just say, I'm sorry for that. And then we ask to be forgiven. And then we ask the other person, what would it take for me to make this right by you? And the
Mhm.
other person inevitably gives us something much smaller than we would do ourselves. We're like, so I will do 10 Hail Marys every single day for the rest of my life. And they're like, I was just thinking that was yesterday. Let's go have a cup of coffee. That would make it up to me. And so I think we need to learn about do-overs and amends and that role models to others that they can have do-overs too. I had another great friend just pass away recently, and um, she was a very beautifully practicing Christian, like the Christian we all are
We
wanting to
love,
see
yeah,
practice, like
right.
unconditional love and like
Jesus with skin on.
yeah. And she when I went through a divorce, I knew that that would be something she'd be profoundly disappointed in. She had been in my wedding and we'd been
Mm.
married 20 years. And so I avoided her. And I didn't take her calls for a while. And she got in, drove 3 hours, came to my house, and she said, Are you avoiding me? I said, Yeah, I'm very ashamed. My marriage failed. I filed for divorce. And I said, and I know how you feel about that. And she said, I can feel any way I want about that, but that doesn't change how I feel about you. I can feel the same thing about you, but feel feelings about the decisions. She goes, they aren't mutually exclusive. And I said, well, she stayed a couple days and I kept bringing it up. And she goes, last I checked, that was yesterday, but we're good today, right? And she said that over and over again. And she taught me
Mm.
the power of do overs in that moment.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
so I think there's a whole skill set that we need to learn.
Yes.
Of our 40s, we learn how to make money and achieve and acquire and protect our kids. And if you don't have kids, protect our loved ones. But when you get to your 50s and 60s, Richard Rohr wrote a great book, Falling Upward. That's all ego achievement stuff. But what most people hit in their 50s and 60s is legacy soul stuff.
Yeah.
And the question that will haunt you until you ask it, because we ask, should I stay in this job or should I leave this job? The question that will haunt you is, what does my soul crave?
Yes.
And
And
once you answer that, you'll know how to live.
okay, you said so many things that are just
Sorry,
so,
I'm
no,
rambling because I'm
so
so excited to
powerful.
see
And I
you.
know I'm so excited to see you. And I love so many things you said. And I mean, this is going to be an episode, listener, that you're going to want to listen to over and over and just pick up all these amazing questions that she's posing to us. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, why are, in history, women really succeeded and did life in community, in circles, in groups? They mothered in groups, they worked in the fields in groups, they did all of this in groups. And it was very much part of the culture to really like live with other women, right? Like the men were away hunting and gathering and all. I mean, we were gathering, they're away. And we live in a society where it's like we're so alone,
Yeah,
and we're so tired that at the end of the day we think it's just too much work to commune.
it
um,
is.
and yet I've opening up a new business, as you know, and I've probably talked to 75 women that I have never met before in my community in the last 3 months. I've probably met with 75 different women, and every single one of them, it doesn't matter what they do. If they're a lawyer, if they're a nonprofit, stay-at-home mom, community volunteer, doctor, CEO, all of them ask me the same question. Am I going to find a friend in this club that you're opening? Will there be a space for friendship? How will I make friends? I'm lonely. Every single woman I've met with. And there's this like epidemic of loneliness, but it's almost like it's so shameful to admit that and say
Yeah.
that. why do we have this complex as women that we are supposed to heal by ourselves, that we're supposed to evolve and become by ourselves? And how do we, in our current society, get back to some semblance of community with other women?
I think it starts for me with finding my voice. Like I actually took voice lessons not to become a singer, but to find like not my performative voice, which can give a talk on a demand, but my real voice. And I think there's
Mm.
so many ways that over time we get the message to like stop speaking up. And if we're not making sound, other people can't find us in the dark. And so a
Mm.
way to get back in community for me has been finding my true voice, my authentic voice. And when I speak my authentic voice, people just appear out of nowhere in my life. Like it is like a signal that I put out. Um, and I don't want to blame anybody, but like we bought into this thing like we want to be like equal to men. But our biology isn't equal to men. And I'm not talking trad wife stuff. Our biology isn't equal to men. When I forget the scientist who did the early studies, and she looked at little boys in preschool and how they connected, and little girls in preschool and how they connected. Little boys connected through kind of one upping, like my babysitter wears glasses. Well, my babysitter has contacts. Well, I my babysitter rides a bike. Girls were like, your babysitter wears glasses, so does mine. And just
Mm.
genetically, I think if you go back into evolutionary biology, genetically, we were safer in numbers. And if we were left from kind of the male gender, we gathered to be safer in community just because we weren't as physically strong or, whatever that might be. And so you look at evolutionary biology, and I think I know I hook, line, and sinker fed into like go to work and be equal and I still wanted to do my career. I just would have, if I had my voice, I would have said, but not like this.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
we can rewrite the rules, but in order to be part of a community, which is our natural yearning, we have to play by community rules. So when we joined work, the rules were not women's rules.
Right.
And
Right.
so we just learned like we're very placating. When you join community, you learn the rules and you become a good community member. So now that women are finding their voice and we're making our community, people will naturally find friends because they'll join our community and they'll love our rules because we don't really have
Right.
rules.
Right.
Does
Oh
that
my
help
gosh.
with?
Yes, so good. And I love that what you said about your voice, because we do have to, if we don't speak, people can't find us. And it is, I know it's hard to be vulnerable and say, I need help, or I'm lonely, or I need a friend, or I'm not sure I have this problem. I'm not sure how to process it or deal with it. If you ever had this problem, it takes so much courage in today's world to admit that you don't know everything, to admit that you're a little lost, to admit that you're struggling, to admit that you are lonely and that maybe you have all this success, but you're so lonely inside.
Yeah.
But again, you're not, we often think we're going to have we're going to reach some level in our life and then everything's going to fall into place. We're going to have great friends and a great partner and our kids are going to be, that's just not how it works. You
No,
have to
life's
actually,
messy. Life's
yes,
messy. That's the name of my last book. Life's
yes,
messy. Live
yes,
happy. Well, and
yes.
I think even that is fix yourself up before you come out and serve us dinner. Like I'm finding so much messaging I got by loving people in my life who just wanted to keep me safe, but the very people who I thought would keep me safe were the least safe people. And
Oh,
so we have to really, look at that. And at times when woman turns to woman, we live out our not authentic voice. And so when somebody turns to us and has it turning towards, a lot of times we reject that because instead of saying me too. And when we aren't authentic, we say not me, or I can't relate, or don't ever talk about that. It's dangerous. But when we are authentic as women, we always say me too. And that's why the Me Too movement was so powerful in bringing down a lot of really horrible behaved people because somebody finally spoke up a truth and one other person said me too.
me too.
And
Yes.
so, take it out of the sexual abuse world. I love the concept Me Too, and
Yeah.
not Me Too in one upping, like, oh, you think that's bad. My
Right.
boss is worse.
Right.
That's not Me Too. It's you're lonely, Me Too. You don't
Yes.
have it figured out, Me Too.
Yeah. You're scared. Me too.
Me
You're
Too.
unsure. Me too.
Me Too.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Oh my gosh,
avoid
so
the
good.
venting part that says, and here's my story about why I'm scared. No, the world's a scary place, and I feel underskilled right now, and I feel kind of like by myself. And I know genetically being by myself in a scary world is not safe.
Mm, yeah.
Like we're animals. Like the hair on the back of our neck is like on edge all the time when we're
Right.
out there alone. And so
Yes.
many people loved me for my intellect or my wisdom that I gave. But my biggest fear is people wouldn't love me for who I was and what my heart had
Yes.
in it. And the coolest thing about being in my 60s is I've been freeing myself up of the performative and just being present and finding people really love me for just the fact that I bring peace and love and they love my heart and my humor and that's been the most healing of any therapy or anything I've ever done is you can do all the therapy in the world, but if you don't show up authentically and then have somebody love you as a girlfriend just for being authentic, you'll never know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you know what I love about you and is I've really been able to watch you evolve into this next best version of you and this new version of you. And you've had many iterations and you are, I just want to leave with an affirmation for you that you are so more present. Like when I talk to you and you seem so much at peace, you seem
Thank
so
you.
calm, you just seem like you are not in a hurry, you're not rushed, you're not thinking of the next thing, you're just such at such peace and it creates this kind of aura around you that makes other people feel very safe and like I want some of that, like I want whatever she's living right now.
Thank you.
And
Highest compliment. Highest compliment.
well, it's true. And I know it didn't come from like making millions of dollars and then just coasting. It came from pain and hardness and feel and asking yourself the hardest question. Like you said, like, what does my soul crave? And why am I doing it? And am I pursuing it? I mean, so good. You have given us so many pearls. We need to have another session.
I'm
And
glad to
that's,
always do another session with you. And are you ready to reveal the secret, or are we holding that?
oh, we're holding that. We're holding
Okay.
that. We'll hold that for our next one.
Okay.
I love you so much, my friend.
Love you
Thank you
back.
so much for coming on. This was so amazing. And I cannot wait to see you and hug you and just tell you how much I love you in person.
Right back at you, girl.